all of the little villages in the Côte de Nuit were built around a saint, a local saint usually, and there was usually a monastery, a church, an abbey, and it was at first these monasteries and abbeys that worked the land that were later taken over by the bigger monasteries. For example, perhaps you've heard of the Abbey of Cluny. Very important. Cluny was founded in 910. It began when William of Aquitaine left his land, and he said he wanted an abbey to be built to St. Peter and St. Paul. And Cluny grew and developed because we have to tell you the Cluniac monks were especially good at praying and singing. You tell me, of course they're good at praying. But they prayed for the dead. And so people left money, or people came to be buried near Cluny, and they left a lot of money, and the abbey became very rich. And it started buying up other abbeys all over Burgundy. And the Clos de Bèze, for example, was bought by Cluny, and they worshipped there Saint Vivant. And it became a Cluniac site, and still today it's known as a Cluniac site because the monks of Cluny exploited it until the Revolution. Parallel to the Cluniac monks, we also have the Cistercian monks. Citeaux, the Abbey of Citeaux was founded in 1098 when Robert from the Abbey of Monasteries left his monastery. It's in the north of the Côte d'Or, where we are now, because he thought they weren't following the Benedictine rule closely enough. Benedictine rule, remind you, 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of prayer, 8 hours of work. And so he came and he got permission from the dukes. At that time it was still the Capetian dukes, and he was given land to found this monastery, which he did. And it was reformed in the 12th century by the great Saint Bernard, Bernard. And he, again, helped it grow, founded sister and daughter abbeys all over Europe, and they exploited, had wine exploitation here too. And the chateau of Claude Vougeot is a Cistercian site. It dates between the 13th and the 15th century, and it still exists today. It's not really a chateau. It was a grange, a barn at the beginning, and that's where they made their wine. After the end of the Capetian dukes, we have the great Valois dukes, called the Great Dukes of the West. Philip the Bold, John the Fearless, Philip the Good, and Charles the Bold. And it was these dukes who really insisted on perfecting winemaking techniques, working with the monks, and exploiting and marketing the wine once again all over Europe. It wasn't just about making wine for religious purposes. It was making wine, good wine, for the heads of state, if we could say, all over Europe. That's right. In Burgundy, we don't drink a grape, we drink a place. And it's the place where the grape is grown that changes the character and the flavor. And because of this, they've developed 4 wine appellations. We have what we call a regional appellation. So you could have a Burgundy Pinot Noir, and the grapes can come from anywhere in Burgundy, and that can be assembled if you like. There's no particular plot. Usually they come from either the Côte de Nuit, or the Côte de Beaune, or the Côte Chalonnaise. And then we have a village appellation, and the grapes can only come from that village. So Gevrey Chambertin village, or Meursault village, that's in the Côte de Beaune, or Louis Saint-Georges village, and the grapes usually come from the flat plain part, because it's easier when you can see the slopes and the côte to understand. There's a flat part just before the slopes, and that's usually where the village grape appellation are grown. And then you have the slopes going up, and toward the bottom of the slopes and the top of the slopes is where you grow the premier cru, and in the middle of the slopes the grand cru, because in the middle you have the best exposure to the sun and the best drainage. And so the 4 appellations are regional, village, premier cru, and grand cru. And the premier cru and grand cru can only come from one particular parcel of land. Like a clos. Clos de Bèze, you have within walls, and that's a clos, and the grapes cannot come from anywhere else but that clos, or the Clos de Vougeot, because it's so unique here. We talk about terroir all over France, the land that makes the difference, whether it be cheese or anything else. But here we not only have the terroir, the land, but the parcel of land where the wine grows. And if you take two wines right here in the Côte de Nuit, just to give you an example, Chambol-Musigny and the Gevrey Chambertin, it doesn't matter really which clos, where it comes from, we say that Chambol-Musigny, they're side by side. Chambol-Musigny is a feminine, lighter wine, and the Gevrey Chambertin, a heavier, more masculine wine. And they're side by side. So this gives you an idea of the uniqueness of the climat that we have. And so there's a push to put these climat, these parcels of land, on the UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's in the works now, and so it's being considered, discussed, and voted on. So we'll see what happens.